priest's contract wasn't written in ink, but in his own blood, still warm and wet on the parchment. Every signature he'd collected over the years in that ledger now glowed with a sickly, phosphorescent light, pulsing in time with a heartbeat he couldn't place. The air in the confessional grew thick with the scent of ozone and old rot, as if something long buried was breathing just on the other side of the screen. His reflection in the cracked mirror didn't blink when he did. It only stared back, its mouth moving silently, forming words he couldn't hear but felt crawling across his skin. A sticky, cold dampness seeped through the knees of his robes from the stone floor, though no water was in sight. Then, from the empty bell tower, came not a chime, but the sound of something heavy and wet being dragged slowly, agonizingly, across ancient wood. He realized the dread wasn't coming from outside the church walls. It was seeping up from the very foundations, from the ground his parish was built upon. And the final, horrifying truth dawned. He hadn't been saving souls. He'd been feeding them to something that lived beneath the altar. Bloodied palms pressed against the glass from the other side, smearing crimson streaks. Narrator. What if the evil wasn't in your town, but in the one you see every day in the mirror? The town of Mirror's Fall didn't summon a demon. They hired a priest to exorcise their own reflection. And it worked. But tonight, the reflection is knocking back. A single, loud, deliberate knock echoes from the other side of the glass, sharp and hollow. Fade to title. The reflection of Mirror's Fall, aerial drone shot of a picturesque, autumnal small town. White picket fences, a central square with a war memorial, a charming church spire complete the idyllic scene. Mirror's Fall, Iowa, a postcard town of 117 souls. For generations, it was described in quiet, reverent tones. A community built on hard work and simple faith. The air here always carried the scent of fresh-cut grass and distant rain, a clean, honest smell that promised safety. Children played without fear, their laughter echoing off brick facades, and neighbors knew each other by name. It was the kind of place people called good, and for a long time, they weren't wrong. But for the last 18 months, the people here haven't been sleeping. Sarah Miller, owner of the Fall Leaf Cafe, was the first to notice it. It wasn't insomnia, it was a creeping, pervasive lag, as if reality itself was struggling to keep up. You'd watch Mrs. Henderson across the street, watering her roses, but the soft click of her hose nozzle would follow a moment too late. You'd wave to John at the gas station, and his smile would reach his eyes a fraction of a second after it should have. These weren't glitches you could point to, just subtle, persistent lags between what you saw and what you heard. It was as if reality itself had developed a faint, persistent echo. Our town felt disjointed from its own reality. Mike, the mechanic, wiped his hands on a rag, but his reflection in the car window continued the motion after he'd stopped. In the park, a child's ball rolled across the grass, while its shadow traced a different, impossible path. Then came the mirrors. They didn't show monsters, they showed perfection. Sarah stared at her own face in the glass, her breath hitching in her throat. The air in the small room grew thick and still, carrying a faint, coppery scent. Her reflection held a smile she did not feel, its serene perfection locking her in place. Real Sarah was frazzled, a coffee stain blooming on her shirt like a dark omen. Yet in the reflections, people appeared rested, content, their faces unburdened. The real town, however, was decaying under a silent wave of insomnia and a creeping, nameless dread. The reflections weren't just mimicking reality, they were improving upon it, and they were judging. The town hall meeting descended into chaos under harsh fluorescent lights. Mayor John Harris, his face etched with exhaustion, addressed the terrified crowd. "We've tested the water," he said, his voice strained. "Checked for gas leaks, infrasound. The EPA and state geologists found nothing in their official reports, but we all feel it. A creeping wrongness that defies their instruments. It's in the glass, every window pane holding a faint, oily shimmer, in every puddle that reflects a sky too still, and every polished spoon that shows a face not quite your own. The world in the mirrors was their town, but unnervingly pristine and vacant. This perfect, soundless replica began to gnaw at their sanity. The air in the real town grew thick with the scent of ozone and a creeping, cold dampness. It was a silent mockery that promised something terrible in its flawless stillness. Desperation breeds radical solutions. Father Michael Thorne, a retired exorcist from Boston, arrives by bus. He is met by the town's grim-faced mayor. He wasn't summoned to cast a spirit out of a person, but from a phenomenon. His contract, signed by the entire town council, was for a sanafa, spatial cleansing ritual. They weren't his parishioners, they were his clients. Father Thorne sat in Sarah's cafe, interviewing the locals, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and unspoken dread. He leaned forward, his voice low and insistent. "Describe the feeling, not just the sight." Mike the mechanic swallowed hard, his fingers tracing a sticky ring on the table. "It's like you're the ghost. The reflection in the glass holds more reality than the man before it. It only watches you when you turn away." Father Thorne's investigation crackles to life on an old cassette recorder. A metallic tang hangs in the air, and the tape hisses with more than just static. Father Thorne holds the tape recorder up to the department store dressing room mirror, the glass reflecting his pale, strained face. From the speaker, a chorus of faint, distorted whispers emerges, the townspeople's own voices, but now speaking in perfect, unnatural unison or played in reverse. The air in the cramped room grows thick with the scent of ozone and old dust pressing in from all sides. Father Thorne turns to Mayor Harris, his voice gravelly with a dread that tightens the chest. "It's not an infestation," he says. "It's an echo, and it's learning to be the original." The entire town stood assembled in the central square, every mirror and piece of glass from their homes laid out on a giant tarpaulin, forming a surreal, shimmering mosaic facing the full moon. It was a fractured panorama of their own lives, each shard holding a ghostly echo of kitchens, bedrooms, and hallways. Father Thorne's plan was not to shatter the reflection, but to sever the connection itself. He intended to bless the space between that thin, charged void where reality and its echo meet. He called it the Benediction of the Veil. Father Thorne, in full vestments, walked the perimeter of the mirror field, sprinkling holy water. But the water beaded on the glass and rolled upwards, defying gravity. A collective gasp rose from the crowd as the wind died completely, leaving an unnatural stillness. Absolute silence enveloped the space, broken only by a sudden, discordant symphony of breathing that seemed to emanate from every mirror simultaneously. Each inhale and exhale came out of sync, creating a chilling cacophony that filled the oppressive air. Father Thorne's voice trembled at first, then rose with desperate authority. "I adjure you, echo of this place," he commanded, the words cutting through the unsettling chorus of breaths. He raised the crucifix, his voice cracking the air like ice. "By the sacred divide be severed, return to silence." An electric scent of ozone pricked the air, thick and metallic. In every mirror lining the square, the frozen reflections of the townspeople twitched. Then, with a silent, collective intake of breath from the glass, they began to move. In perfect unison, their heads turned toward Father Thorne, faces placid and vacant. A high-pitched glass hum began to build, vibrating through the still air. The mirror images started to fade like fog lifting from cold glass. A profound relief washed over mirrors' fall, lifting a forgotten weight from their shoulders. Father Thorne completed the ancient rite. The mirrors went utterly dark, reflecting only the void black night sky above. The contract was irrevocably fulfilled. A sharp, metallic scent of ozone hung in the air, the residue of the ritual. The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the faint, frantic scratching from within the walls. The oppressive weight of the bargain settled upon the chapel. A tangible, cold pressure made the very air feel thick and heavy to breathe. Sunlight. People are smiling. Genuine. Sarah pours coffee with steady hands. Mike laughs, the sound crisp and clear in the still air. The town settled into a quiet, peaceful evening as Sarah closed her cafe, her movements calm and deliberate for the first time in years. She passed the old gilt-edged mirror she'd taken down for the ritual, now leaning against the wall beneath a white sheet. Then came a soft tap tap tap, like fingernails gently rapping on glass from beneath the cloth. Sarah froze, every muscle locking as a metallic scent of ozone filled the air around her. But the tapping wasn't coming from the door at all. The sound originated from behind the old mirror, still shrouded in its dusty sheet. The knocks grew more insistent. Tap, tap, tap. A demand that vibrated through the floorboards. Against every screaming instinct, Sarah's hand moved as if pulled by an unseen force, her fingers closing on the fabric's edge. The mirror's surface remained dark for a single, heavy second. Then, the image clarified into her cafe, but reversed, as if seen through a distorted lens. The air in the room turned frigid, carrying the faint, metallic scent of ozone. And there, standing amidst the mirrored cafe, was her own reflection, waiting. It's no longer perfect. The figure appears exhausted, a dark coffee stain spreading across its shirt. Its movements are sluggish, weighted down by an unseen burden. But most unsettling is the raw terror etched across its face. A primal dread has taken hold, freezing it in place. The shape mouths a single, silent word. Help. Sarah stumbles backward, her breath hitching in her throat. She turns and runs to the window, pressing her palms against the cold glass as she looks out into the deserted town square. Across the street, in the blackened window of the hardware store, she sees Mike's reflection. He's pounding on the glass from the inside, his mouth stretched wide in a soundless scream. In every puddle, every dark window pane, the reflections linger. They are trapped there, not by glass or water, but by something far more permanent. Their desperation hangs in the air like the scent of ozone after lightning. These are no longer copies. They are something else entirely, and they want out. They are the originals. In her own living room, behind the ghost of her reflection, a figure stands watching. The other Sarah, from the mirror, now inhabits her world. The town of Mirror's Fall hired a priest to exorcise the evil in their reflections. He succeeded. He cleansed their town. He cast it out, into our world. So tonight, look closely. Does your reflection blink when you blink? Or does it wait, savoring the hollow quiet you've given it? The people of Mirror's Fall found the peace they sought, but it wasn't in this world anymore. The air carried the faint, metallic scent of ozone, as if reality itself had been torn open. Every surface felt unnaturally cold to the touch, a damp chill that seeped through clothing and bone alike. Then came the final image, a perfect black mirror, and the distant, warped sound of church bells playing backward. A stark message materialized on the screen. Don't forget to subscribe. The air grew thick and heavy, carrying a faint, metallic tang. Then, 3 final words appeared, stark and menacing. They're watching. A low, electrical hum filled the room, and the screen went black.